Jai Hind. Today is a very auspicious day for all of us. You know very well that today is Army Day. Yes, sir. तो आप सबको बहुत बहुत मुबारक, खास तौर पे उन सबको जो कि फौजी हैं. So today we are having a chat show on our channel. So I welcome you all to this chat show on Choti Si Mulaqat. This episode is going to be a very special and unique because it is regarding making a career in most adventurous field. Can you guess what? Yes, you have guessed it very right. It is Indian Armed Forces, right? Today we have with us Major General VPS Bhakuni. He was commissioned into Army in 1981. A very dynamic personality, now engaged in helping the youth of the nation in entering into Army and becoming very successful officers. He was conferred with the Vashisht Seva Medal for his meritorious service for the exceptional order. I will not take much of your time, and now I will welcome General Bhakuni to our show. Bhakuni sir, you are welcome to Choti Si Mulaqat.
Thank you. What a pleasure, Mr. Kang, and what a wonderful day you have selected, Army Day, very close to my heart. And what a wonderful audience you have chosen. Some of them are from the armed forces and others are aspirant of the armed forces. Yes, I'm sure it is going to be a very interesting meeting. Choti Si Mulaqat, I really liked your heading. I hope it is not going to be too long.
Not at all, sir.
Okay.
So to begin with, sir, I'd like to know that what was your journey from a village boy who joined Indian Army as an apprentice and went on to becoming a Major General in the Army?
Thank you. Yes, very interesting question. Like I think most of the officers of the Indian Armed Forces, I am also from a very remote and very, I will say, the village which was not very developed one, and in the hills of Uttarakhand. I am from district Almora, a village which is next to the Kausani called Khirapur. So yes, the village is very remote, and those days when we were young children, we also had our education in the village school. So the only thing which kept this dream of armed forces alive was the greatest inspiration which I got from my Fauji brothers. You know, in my village there were those days, I remember 36 army people, and we used to count now how many army people are already enrolled. And none of them was officers. They were JSHOs, Subda Majors, NSHOs, Jamans. And, whenever an army person used to come to the village, I was in class 2, class 3. So, we all used to go to his house. And in those days, the Faujis used to be very lavish. And the custom was to give them chana and gud, And we used to call in our local language of Uttarakhandi, Pahadi language, we used to call it Chandgud. Anybody from Uttarakhand will understand that. Chandgud. So we used to go to the Fauji's house to have the Chandgud, and they used to bring that for us. So one day when there was some Faujis sitting together, and one elderly man, related to me of course, mentioned that in our village there are so many Faujis, but none of them is an army officer. And someday we should have an army officer. And can you believe the idea? I don't know how it came in my mind. I was in class 3 that I will be the one who will become an army officer. So can you believe that dream was formed at that young, tender age? And that dream, I kept it alive.
Very nice.
And after that, the only one thing I saw in my eyes, that is to become an armed forces officer. In spite of numerous hurdles, ups and downs, in spite of village education, in spite of not knowing the English at all, so I ultimately was able to do it. If I can do it, that's why I tell these young boys, you also can do it. It's not that difficult as you are thinking. If I can do from that remote village, who came to this city only in class 6, and can you believe, after 12th class, I joined army as a Jawan, as an apprentice in apprentice training school, Bhopal. So during the training, you will not believe I did my graduation privately and cracked the CDS examination as well as ACC examination, and of course the short service examination. And first time when I went for the SSB, you will be surprised, it was 11 board of Allahabad, and I did very well from my own standards. I was very energetic, very confident, very enthusiastic, had prepared well, but I couldn't speak a single word of English.
Oh.
And in fact, in my college days, those days, I was part of the anti-English movement. I was part of that English movement. So we used to, follow that julus, that English, there should be no English to be taught and all that. So I was one of those. So I had some, you can call it some kind of hatred for English. So I spoke very confidently in the SSB in Hindi. And obviously, I was not selected. I was confident, I was shocked when the result came because I had done well. And when I came back, there was one army officer. I asked him, I still remember his name was Major Joshi. And I asked him, sir, I had gone, I did well, this is what happened, I had prepared well. Yes, I spoke in Hindi throughout. He told me one dialogue, which I keep repeating now. It is not my original dialogue, it is his dialogue. He said, Bhakuni, if you do not know English, even the God cannot help you. And I immediately, from anti-English, I became pro-English the very next day. And can you believe it? I put day and night together. In 4 months, my next SSB was there. It was here in Bangalore board, 17 SSB, of which I became later the president. After about 35, 36 years, I became a president of the same board. Oh. I went to that board, the deputy president interviewed me. I did very well. Can you believe that one of the best compliments I got from him? I still remember, he said, knowing my background, I'm a soldier, I'm a Jawan of the Indian Army, virtually. And he was just wondering, he's like, Bhakuni, how did you pick up this English? I just smiled in my heart. I knew I'm doing pretty well. The way he spoke to me, I knew 100% that I'm through in this SSB. And this is exactly what happened. And the moment the result was announced, I was passed. Not only that, I cracked the ACC, I cracked the short service. I had a choice to go in any of them. I went to the IMA thereafter, and July 1980, I joined the Indian Military Academy. After that, you asked me a very long question. The journey up to a journal has been not that I was a kind of extraordinary. No, I was just an average officer. I will say a sincere, a dedicated, a disciplined and an average officer. Let me tell you, this is the greatness of Indian Army. Look, they can accept a boy from a village as an officer. They can give the officer an opportunity to become a general. It is not I will not give the credit to me. I will give credit to this great Indian Army, where everybody has got an equal opportunity to rise high in life. So there are seniors who encourage you. In spite of your background, they groom you to hold senior positions. And simply, it is their encouragement, it is their grooming, it is the environment of the great Indian Armed Forces which made me a general rather than my own effort. Yeah.
Very well said, very well said. So, going further from your journey, sir, how you came into selection process of the Indian Armed Forces, and what were your focus areas there?
Mr. Kang, yes, this selection system was very dear to my heart. Can you believe I volunteered for it? Okay. At that time, I was doing pretty well as a brigadier. I was already approved to become a general. People, in fact, my colleagues told me, why the hell are you going there? Because people who are doing well generally will not opt for selection system. That is the top people will not opt for usually in the armed forces. So I was already approved to become a general, but I wanted to be part of this system. One of the reasons was somehow I was attracted to this selection system, And can you believe it? When I was a colonel, I had made up a mind the day I retire, I'm going to open an academy to guide the youth of the country. Because the worst problem I faced when I was wanting some kind of guidance, can you believe it? Those days there was hardly any academy. In India, there was only one academy, that was Minerva Academy in Chandigarh. There were no academies those days.
True.
No guidance whatsoever. Where to go? You want to find out? There was hardly any YouTube channel. There was hardly any guidance. Nobody could tell you what happens in the SSB. We were completely blank. So I was thinking, and there were 9,500 vacancies in the armed forces. I thought, perhaps knowing my nature, my choice, my aptitude, I think I will fit into the selection system. Since my aim ultimately was, after retirement, to open a kind of institution like this, which I have been able to open, so I joined the selection system of the Indian Army.
Okay.
I volunteered for it, and I immediately got my number, did the course, got selected. It is a tough course. And after that, the practical leg, I again came back to the same SSB Bangalore. For good about 64 days, I was here during the practical leg. 1 odd month in Delhi, where there was a theory leg. It is virtually almost 80 to 90 days course.
Okay.
And I got selected, and thereafter, immediately after my command as a general officer, I was posted again, as I had volunteered that I would volunteer to go to the selection center. So I was posted as a commandant.
Great. So you had a very great vision, actually. So do you consider that the present system of selection is very robust? And what do you recommend?
Mr. Kang, frankly speaking, this is a very old, time-tested system. Undoubtedly, this has served the armed forces pretty well. It has served the nation pretty well. Because the selection system, one thing I will tell you, the beauty of the selection system is, since 1948, when we adopted this system, till date, there are numerous boards, but there has not been a single case of corruption against so many centers.
Excellent.
So it has been a very robust system based on the good old Indian philosophy of Manasa, Vacha, Karmana, where there are 3 techniques which are assessing you. And all these 3 techniques are independent. So I will say, yes, the selection system is very robust, very, very impartial, and you select the best out of the lot. But at the same time, as you asked me, because with the time we also need to change. Today, it's been a very long time since 1948. Yes, we have to change the selection system. First thing which I don't like is, it's a 5-day system. We can't afford to waste 5 days just for selection. So we need to cut it down. And I think in the army, there is a thought of de novo, and these data are available in the open domain now. So in the de novo system, the whole system is likely to get amended or improved upon. Like I had in fact very strongly recommended, I had in fact written a letter to the Chief of the Army Staff as a commandant. The letter is still in my record that, the selection system, it is time that we further modify it. So the recommendation which I had also written in that is to cut it down to 3-day selection system, cut off this stage 1 which can be done in the regional centers somewhere, include the physical test, and cut down on the GTO and cut down on the psych test. So this was the recommendation which I wrote a personal due letter to the Chief of the Army Staff, that it is high time that we change the system. So I think the army is already working, but we definitely need to bring it down to 3 days, because I feel it is a kind of criminal waste of manpower, money, effort, when 400, 500 candidates come to the selection center. Imagine, out of that, 50 chaps are kept and 350 are sent same day after 4 or 5 hours.
Oh my God.
That's really not, welcome. That is what we got to take care of it. There is no point of sending so many people back. Imagine the kind of, in these days, the candidates are busy. They have their examination, they have their schedule, they have cut it down, they have amended their schedule, come all the way by year, wasted their money, and you just appear in the stage 1 and you go back. If you come to the SSB, like in our time, you appear for the whole SSB process. I would recommend a process like that. Therefore, this stage 1, either it takes place online, or it takes place in the regional centers which can be made under the recruiting directorate, and we Army has the facility for it. It can be easily implemented. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly, sir. You are very right. This is going to save a lot of time, money, and energy that is presently being, taken away. So, sir, presently you are running, I trust, the best academy for SSB training, which is situated at Bangalore. Could you please tell me that what made you start this venture?
Mr. Kang, to be honest, I just partly mentioned it is my dream project. It is something which I love. It's something. Can you believe it? As a colonel, I thought I might retire as a colonel. I was doing pretty well though. So who knows the future? I made a presentation. It is still with me. As a colonel, that after retirement, I'm going to open this academy. The only thing that time my vision was to open this academy in Uttarakhand. So I had made the presentation that I'm going to work on that. Because if you have the conviction of doing something, because I loved it, it is a passion with me. I wanted to guide the youth, and I was sure that the 9 to 10,000 vacancies which are there in the armed forces, I was confident that in 5 to 6 years, I will be able to close this gap. I will be able to train the youth in a manner that the maximum of them get selected. And can you believe, Mr. Kang, that's the reason in 2 years, we have a record success rate of 200 candidates getting selected, which is a kind of record.
Excellent.
So many guys which even are online with us are getting selected in huge numbers.
Great.
It is. So that's very satisfying, and the dream was right as a kernel in my mind. And a very interesting incident which my friends quote me. When in the DIPR I was under training. Everybody has to give a lecture. As a general officer, I was also told to give a lecture. Why as a general officer I am coming for this course? What is the reason behind it? I told them very frankly in front of everybody, it is on record that because I came here not for any reason, because I have a vision to open an academy one day. And everybody was surprised because people generally do not disclose this kind of intention. I disclose in front of everyone. That is my sole intention. I told everybody, all those who did the course with me, it's on record. I said, I'm going to open an academy. After that, nothing wrong. If you guide the youth, what's wrong with it?
Excellent.
So that was the aim, and that's the reason I think we are filling up this gap gradually, but steadily.
True. Very nice, sir. And sir, what, in your opinion, are the key qualities that are required by any candidate to crack SSB? And also, please let us know what is the idea behind this selection.
Okay. Mr. Kang, the first thing first, basically these guys also know the selection system is based on officer-like qualities. But reading those 15 officer-like qualities, trying to inculcate in yourself is a little long process. But I will simply tell them what is required, what we are looking for. If you simply pay attention to these 5-6 points, I think you guys can do wonders. What we are looking for, I will say whether it is written in your officer-like qualities or not, doesn't matter. We are looking for a smart, impressive, intelligent, confident, a person with good power of expression and body language, bold and lively. That's all we are looking for. Along with that, if you have a knowledge, oh my God, then it is the added feather in your cap. This is all we are looking for. Are you smart? Are you impressive? Are you energetic? Are you enthusiastic? Are you confident? Do you have the power of expression? Do you have the body language? Are you bold enough? And do you have the knowledge? Knowledge about the armed forces, knowledge about the general awareness around you, what's happening. That's what a leader is supposed to know. That's all, Mr. Kang, frankly speaking. True. This all is required. So the selection system is based on officer-like qualities. But rather than confusing them into so many officer-like qualities, reasoning ability, affective intelligence, they will get confused. You simply then ask this thing. Are you smart? Are you impressive? Are you energetic? Are you enthusiastic? Do you have a positive attitude in life? Do you have a good power of expression? Are you bold? So do you have a good body language so that you can impress? Do you have the knowledge? That's all we are looking for. And beyond that, rest of the things come much later. we are initially looking at only these things. So that's what I will advise my candidates always.
So basically, it is a personality-based selection system.
Exactly. We are unlike the civil services or the private sector. Ours is purely a personality-based system. And let me tell you, it is the best system. And because we are looking for leaders, we are looking for, you see, whatever I said, these qualities have to be there in a leader. They have to be in a leader. If you do not have leaders like that, something wrong. Then how do they impress? Tomorrow they have to lead their people.
Yes.
How do they lead? Can they lead? If they lack the determination, they lack the courage, and they lack the qualities which I told you. So obviously there will be a problem. The selection system is very well made, 3 different techniques, which I do not want to dwell upon here, and in which we ensure that the candidate is independently checked by 3 techniques. And thereafter there is a discussion, and marks we allot based on your ops-like qualities. Based on that, we give them the marks, and the selection system is absolutely fair, let me tell you this.
Yeah.
Isma, there is no kind of partiality. That's the reason it has stood the test of time. There cannot be.
Yeah.
I have seen very, very senior officers, children failing.
Yes.
I have seen a Jawan's children passing.
Yeah.
So it is, why do you think, I will give you an example. It is a record that in a time it has been this kind of survey has been done in Indian Military Academy and other institutions. Can you believe it? Only 6% were the children of the armed forces officers. 27% were the children of the JSOs and OR. Look at this.
Okay.
So how, impartial the system
Very
is.
fair.
So imagine 6% the officer children are there, 27% the JSO OR children are there. This is on record. So they pass much more than the number of officers, children.
Very nice. Very nicely said. And why do you want the youth of the nation to join armed forces?
Okay. Mr. Kanga, frankly speaking, these guys may be aware of that. Let me tell you guys, I say it very openly with facts with me that armed forces today is the best possible option for the youth, whether they are girls or they are boys. It is the best option open. Can you believe it is the most popular option? These guys may not be aware of. It is not me who says that, it is Union Public Service Commission data says that. Can you believe for 2 examinations only, ND and CDS, which is through the UPSC, there are 18 to 20 lakh applications. For civil services, it is 9 to 10 lakh. Look, they are not even half. Whereas, see, I'm talking about 2 entries. Armed forces have 19 entries. If you include the 19 entries, our numbers will go to 27 lakh. Oh my God, I don't want to say the rest. It is the most, UPSC is saying that armed forces is the most popular option. They see the number of applicants plus applicant to post ratio, which is highest in case of the armed forces. It is nearly 900, whereas the civil services is around 700. It is the best paid service. It is the most respected service. It is the best facilities you have. Best perks. Can you believe it? The kind of pay you people get and the kind of perks you will get. The kind of pensions you will get. It is just unimaginable. You cannot compare it with any service. And you guys, let me tell you, these guys who are going for the armed forces going to become an officer, so there couldn't have been a better choice for them. It is the dream service today. Undoubtedly. If I get a chance, oh my God, I will join tomorrow. And I'm ready to join without pay also. You can imagine.
Actually, same here, sir.
Yeah.
Very nice, sir. And, sir, what I learned from your life, that you had been posted in Jammu and Kashmir for 7 times. And you also participated in Operation Pawan in Sri Lanka. So the viewers know that what were the your memorable incidents there?
Mr. Kang, there are many memorable incidents. It is very difficult to select one, but very quickly, I will say the first time I came under fire. in Sri Lanka.
Okay.
I was going with the experienced company commander, and the moment the fire came, this was the first time I was coming under fire. So I also lied down on the ground. But my company commander, salute to him. He was unfazed, confident. Can you believe it? He didn't even lie down. He was walking. I said, sir, why are you not lying down? He said, no, this fire is ineffective. See, by the sound of fire only, he knew that this fire is ineffective. And after that, I remember a very interesting day on 30th and 31st of May 1989. I had an encounter with the top militant. His name was Sulekshan. I still have his diary captured.
Okay.
Part of his diary is still with me.
Okay.
Most of the documents were submitted. The diary is still with me. And he was the area leader of that. I killed him along with his bodyguard with my own carbine. And look at the luck. And I was with my few soldiers, and he threw a grenade towards us.
Oh.
And look at this, because since he was surrounded, he got so jittery that he did not take out the pin out of that. He threw the grenade, and the pin was not taken out. See the luck also.
Imagine.
So the grenade fell little away from us. Had it exploded, yes, we could have been injured or something.
Yeah.
And we killed him along with his bodyguard, Ashokan. I still remember this incident. And he was hiding in a tree. And the moment I saw that lungi of his moving in the air, I knew something. I happened to see him. And I just fired a burst of carbine on him. And I saw one body fell down. And I fired another burst, second body fell down.
Oh.
So, and later on we recognized, oh my God, thank God he did not fire on us. And otherwise it would have been...
Yeah.
And another one, there are so many. I had the opportunity to kill one of the top militants of the JNK, named Sher Khan,
Okay.
on 27th of August, 1997. So I had the opportunity to kill one of the top leaders. He was very notorious leader of Lashkar-e-Toiba. And because we wanted to take a revenge of this man, we knew that man, we had intelligence that he's getting out of India now. And we had some definite input. So we laid an ambush for him, I remember on 26th of August 1997. Whole night we laid. That day it was heavy rain, he did not come. We got the input, he is likely to come next day. On 27th he came. At 12:10 in the night, we killed him. They are right in front of me, just about 15-20 yards.
Okay.
So, along the route, we had some definite information. So we killed him. Another one, we had the Ramzan ceasefire in 2001. And the moment I was tracking a militant named, again from Lashkar-e-Toiba, a top militant called Abu Sadar, along with his 3 to 4 militants. We knew in which area he is. And the moment the Ramzan ceasefire got over, and just we waited for some 2 or 3 days, we surrounded that area. It was a village, and adjacent was a jungle. We knew they are here, so we surrounded that whole thing. And inch by inch we moved forward. We knew okay, we are going to have an encounter, and we may also lose some of my men. It was that kind of encounter. And ultimately we located them. We killed 3 of them, including Abu Sadad, who was one of the top militants of Pakistan. And in fact, there was a lot of hue and cry in the Pakistani ISI. We intercepted the message when he was killed.
Oh.
So he was a top militant of theirs, and they wanted to take the revenge of Abu Sadad. Anyway, so, and thank God, in spite of their firing, we didn't have any casualty. That was the best thing. So we killed him immediately after the Ramzan ceasefire. I remember it was in JNK in a place called Darhal, which was infested with militancy those days. So likewise, there have been numerous incidents, but God has been very kind, and my Jawans have been very, very brave. They don't allow the officer to get injured. They will do anything for you if you take care of them, if you lead them from the front. So there is never a problem.
True. You were destined to be here making future of the country, and also to be with us in Chote Si Mulaqat. We all know that you had a very illustrious career in the army. You were also conferred with the Vishisht Seva Medal. Had you not been in the army, sir, what would you have been otherwise?
Okay, thank you. That's an interesting question. And in fact, along with that, by God's grace, not only Vishnu Seva Medal, 4 times I was given the Chiefs or the Army Commander's Commendation Card.
Okay.
Twice I got the Chief's Commendation Card. One was while killing these militants. Twice I got that. Twice I was given the Army Commander's Commendation Card. So God has been very, very kind. There has been never a dearth of awards and rewards. And as far as I love guiding and teaching, so I had made up my mind, if either I become an officer or I become a teacher. I love this profession. I have a lot of respect for teachers because they play a very, very important role in the life of a student. Because I still remember my teachers, and those teachers really groomed you. So in a similar manner, I also want to be part of their life, little bit, but part of their life. Because I feel so happy, the kind of calls I get. People are desperate to talk to me because they want to tell their success news only to me. They will ring up here and they will say, कि नहीं हमको सर का number चाहिए and all that. So I get the numbers. They talk to me. I also feel very, very happy. So, and I realize their emotions when they say. So that is the kind of bond you develop with your candidates, with your students. So similarly, I think the next best option would have been to become a teacher.
Teacher. Wonderful. Very well said, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your valuable time, guiding the youth of the nation, and sharing your wonderful experiences. I'm sure those who are listening to you will make most of it. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Kang. Thank you. And my parting words to my candidates is, guys, the success is not very far from you. It is just a step away. Only you can write your destiny. Only you can make success of your life. And let me tell you, it is not difficult. The way you decide and the day you start acting on your decision, nothing in this world is unachievable. Because all the success stories tell us that. You are no exception. If I from a remote village can make it, you guys have such wonderful facilities. So cheers for your success in advance. All the best. Bye-bye. Thank you, Mr. Chan.
Jai Hind, sir.
Thank
Jai Hind,
you.
viewers.
Thank you.